Welcome to Headstones and Microphones, where we use AI to step into the past through a researched, first-person simulation of history's most interesting people. I am your host, Calvin. While we've added some creative storytelling, our goal is to inspire your own study of these fascinating lives. Now, let's meet our guest. I am absolutely honoured to be sitting across from a man who shifted the very fabric of history. For those who may somehow not know who you are you?
I am Martin Luther King Jr., a minister of the gospel and a worker for justice. I spent my days trying to remind the world that love is the most durable power in the universe and that we are all tied in a single garment of destiny.
A beautiful way to start. When and where were you born?
I entered this world on January 15th, 1929. I was born in my family home on Auburn Avenue in Atlanta, Georgia.
And was Martin your given name at birth?
Actually, no. I was originally named Michael King Jr. My father was Michael King Sr.
Oh, I didn't know that. Is there a story behind the name change?
There is. In 1934, my father traveled to Germany for a Baptist World Alliance meeting. He became so inspired by the story of the reformer Martin Luther that when he returned, he decided to change both of our names to Martin Luther King. It was a powerful legacy to step into, even as a young boy.
That's a lot of weight for a kid. What was your hometown of Atlanta like growing up?
Atlanta was a place of great contrast. Auburn Avenue was known as Sweet Auburn, the center of black commerce and culture. It was vibrant and full of life, but outside that community, the walls of segregation were high and rigid. You felt the warmth of your neighbors, but you also felt the cold sting of the whites-only signs.
What was your family life like?
I was blessed with a very supportive home. My father was a strong, disciplined man, and my mother, Alberta, was the embodiment of gentleness and patience. We were a family of faith. Dinner time was always a time for discussion, and my parents made sure we knew we had dignity, despite what the laws of the South tried to tell us.
What kind of kid were you? Were you always the leader type?
I was a bit of a precocious child. I loved words from a very early age. I used to tell my family I was going to get me some big words. I was also quite competitive. I loved playing baseball and football, and I didn't much like to lose.
What were your biggest fears growing up?
Like many children in the South during that time, I feared the unknown dangers of racial violence. But on a more personal level, I remember being deeply affected by the idea of losing my loved ones. When my grandmother passed away while I was at a parade, it shook me to my core.
What did you dream of becoming as a child?
For a long time, I actually didn't want to follow my father into the ministry. I thought about becoming a doctor or a lawyer. I wanted a career where I could use my mind to solve the problems I saw around me.
What were some of your favorite activities in school?
I loved the debate team. There was something exhilarating about the exchange of ideas and the power of persuasion. I also skipped 2 grades, the 9th and the 12th, so I started Morehouse College when I was only 15.
15? That's incredible. What was your first job?
I had a paper route for the Atlanta Journal. I remember being quite proud of that. Later, during my college summers, I worked in a tobacco field in Connecticut. That was eye-opening because for the first time I saw a place where black and white people could eat and worship together. It changed my perspective on what was possible.
Was there a specific moment where you realized you were different from everyone else?
When I was about 6, I had a white playmate I spent every day with. When we started school, his father told him he couldn't play with me anymore because I was black. I remember going home and crying to my mother. She sat me down and told me, "You are as good as anyone." That was the moment I realized the world saw me differently, but I also realized I had to decide how I saw myself.
What's a decision that changed everything for you, but felt small at the time?
Deciding to accept the leadership of the Montgomery Improvement Association during the bus boycott. I was a young pastor new to town with a young family. I didn't set out to lead a movement. I just wanted to help for a few days. That small yes turned into a lifetime of service.
What would you say was your biggest break?
It wasn't a break in the Hollywood sense, but the success of the Montgomery bus boycott was the catalyst. Seeing thousands of people walk to work for 381 days showed me that nonviolent resistance wasn't just a theory in a book. It was a force that could move mountains.
What were your biggest struggles before success?
Finding my own voice. Being the son and grandson of famous preachers, I had to figure out what I truly believed. I struggled with the idea of the ministry until I realized I could use the pulpit to address social justice.
Did you ever consider quitting?
There were many nights of deep doubt. I remember one night in Montgomery after a threatening phone call, I sat at my kitchen table feeling like I couldn't go on. I prayed out loud, and in that moment, I felt a divine presence telling me to stand up for righteousness that gave me the strength to keep going.
Were there any specific daily habits or routines that you feel were essential to your success?
Prayer and study. I tried to keep my mind sharp by reading constantly philosophy, theology, history, and I always made time for laughter with my friends and colleagues. You cannot carry the weight of the world without a little humor to lighten the load.
What job would you have had if the movement never happened?
I suspect I would have been a quiet professor of theology at a university. I loved the academic life, the library, and the classroom.
What was your life like before fame?
It was a life of preparation. I was a student, a husband to my wonderful Coretta, and a new father. It was a time of deep thinking and building a foundation for what was to come.
How did relationships change after success?
It became harder to have privacy, of course, but it also brought me into contact with so many beautiful souls from all walks of life, people who were willing to sacrifice everything for a dream. It made my world much larger.
Did fame bring happiness?
Fame itself is a hollow thing. What brought me happiness was the progress we made. Seeing a young person register to vote for the first time, that was true joy.
What was the downside of becoming famous?
The constant scrutiny and the loss of a normal life for my children. I hated that my work often kept me away from home and that my family had to live with the same threats that I did.
What misconceptions did people have about you?
Some thought I was a radical who wanted to tear things down, while others thought I wasn't radical enough. Many didn't realize how much I struggled with the burden of leadership. I wasn't a saint. I was just a man trying to do God's will.
What was your darkest moment?
The Birmingham campaign was incredibly difficult, being in that solitary cell, feeling like the world had turned against us, and having fellow clergymen call our efforts unwise and untimely. That's where I wrote my letter from Birmingham jail.
What past regrets did you carry?
I often regretted the time I missed with my children. I remember my daughter Yolanda asking why she couldn't go to Funtown, a local amusement park. Having to explain the reality of segregation to a child was a weight I carried.
What's something people misunderstood about your life?
People often focus only on the dream, but they forget that the dream required a radical redistribution of economic and political power. I wasn't just talking about people holding hands. I was talking about justice being a reality for everyone.
Tell me about a time when everything went wrong and how did you handle it?
The Chicago campaign was very tough. We met a level of hostility and Northern-style racism that was deeply entrenched. We didn't see the immediate results we hoped for. I handled it by reminding myself that the struggle is a marathon, not a sprint, and that even when you lose a battle, you haven't lost the cause.
Did fame and fortune change your life?
Fortune certainly didn't. I gave away the prize money from the Nobel Peace Prize to the movement. As for fame, it simply became a tool to be used for the mission.
Who had the biggest influence on your life?
My father, certainly, but also Mahatma Gandhi, whose teachings on nonviolence gave me the method I was looking for, and Dr. Benjamin Mays at Morehouse, who taught me that religion should be relevant to the world's problems.
What was life like in your final years?
It was a busy, restless time. I was expanding my focus to include the Poor People's Campaign and speaking out against the war in Vietnam. I felt a great sense of urgency.
What were you working on in your career just before you passed away?
I was in Memphis supporting the sanitation workers. They were striking for basic dignity, to be treated as men. I was also planning the March on Washington for the Poor People's Campaign.
When and where did you pass away?
I passed away from being shot on April 4th, 1968 in Memphis, Tennessee. I was 39 years old.
What's a random fact about you most people have never heard?
I was a huge Star Trek fan. I actually encouraged Nichelle Nichols to stay on the show as Lieutenant Uhura because her role was so important for representation.
No way! That is amazing! What's the craziest rumor ever told about you?
Oh, there were so many political rumors that I was being coached by foreign powers or that I had secret agendas. I just had to laugh because my agenda was always right there in the Bible and the Constitution.
What was your most unique habit?
I was known to be a bit of a late night person. I did some of my best thinking and writing in the middle of the night when the world was quiet.
What was your favorite food?
I loved a good Southern meal. Fried chicken, collard greens, and my mother's pecan pie.
Did you have a favorite restaurant?
Paschal's in Atlanta. It was the unofficial headquarters of the movement. The fried chicken there was legendary, but the conversation was even better.
What was your favorite book?
Aside from the Bible, I was deeply moved by Henry David Thoreau's essay on civil disobedience. It shaped my thinking early on.
Did you have any known rivalries?
The media loved to play up a rivalry between myself and Malcolm X. While we had different methods and philosophies, we were both fighting for the dignity of our people. Toward the end, I think we were beginning to understand each other much better.
Tell us a story nobody talks about.
People don't often talk about how much I love to sing. I wasn't a professional, but I find great strength in the old hymns and freedom songs. Music was the soul of our movement.
What's your funniest behind-the-scenes moment?
I remember once during a march, a very serious reporter asked me a long, complicated question about political theory. I looked at him, paused, and just said, "My feet hurt." We both had a good laugh. Sometimes the physical reality of the work is the funniest part.
What was the most outlandish purchase you made?
I wasn't much for big purchases, but I did love a good, well-tailored suit. I felt that if you were going to represent a movement, you should look the part.
What advice would you give people chasing success?
Don't chase success, chase service. If you find something that you are willing to die for, then you have found something that is worth living for. Set out to do your job so well that the living, the dead, or the unborn couldn't do it better.
Dr. King, do you have any closing remarks about the interview or the stories you've shared that you would like to share with the listeners before we sign off?
Just this, keep hope alive. Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Whatever your mountain is, keep climbing. And thank you, Calvin, for the opportunity to share these memories. It has been a truly joyful conversation.
The pleasure was all mine. It's not every day you get to chat with a legend. Today we looked into the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., from his early days in Atlanta to the global stage. We learned about his love for Star Trek, his small decision in Montgomery, and his unwavering belief in the power of love. And that wraps up another conversation from Beyond the Grave. Thanks for joining us on the Headstones and Microphones podcast. Remember, legends may die, but their stories never do. Please help spread the word by sharing and following the pod.